This is the Investor Mindset Podcast, and I'm Stephen Pesavento. And for as long as I can remember, I've been obsessed with understanding how we can think better, how we can be better, and how we can do better. And each episode, we explore lessons on motivation and mindset from the most successful real estate investors and entrepreneurs in the nation. I can't even tell you guys how blown away I am right now. It has been so much fun having these interviews, and it's been so great, all the direct messages and private messages on Facebook that you guys have been sending. So if you haven't, make sure you go to theinvestormindset.com, theinvestormindset.com, and join the Insider Club, where you can get great tips and tricks on how you can improve your mindset. I want to thank everyone who has dropped a review on iTunes, a 5-star review, and who has hit that subscribe button. It really helps us reach more people. Let's jump into the show. Welcome to the Investor Mindset Podcast, lessons on mindset and motivation from the most successful real estate investors and entrepreneurs in the nation. I'm really excited here. I have a good friend of mine, Whitney Sewell, founder of LifeBridge Capital, who works with accredited investors in the multifamily space. He and his wife, Chelsea, have adopted 2 sons with their 3rd adopted child on the way. He's invested in over 800 doors, valued at over $100 million. And he's done this in a super short time, guys. It's really impressive. Whitney hosts the Real Estate Syndication Show, a daily podcast where he interviews experts on the cutting edge tools and strategies that they've used in their syndication business. And you got to check that out. If you're interested in syndication, this podcast is just blowing up. Welcome to the show, Whitney.
Pleasure to be here, Stephen. I appreciate you having me on.
I'm really excited. I'm really grateful to have you here. I'm grateful to call you a friend and get to know you even more here. So one thing I know about you is that you have a pretty strong why on why you do all this real estate stuff. Tell us a little bit about that before we jump in.
Yeah. So obviously, you read the bio, and my wife and I are in our 3rd adoption process now. And most people have no idea that, unfortunately, the process of going through that adoption process to bring a child home can cost anywhere from $40,000 to $60,000. And most families who would be great parents, or let's say, there's roughly 160 million orphans worldwide, and there's lots of families who would love to be parents or would love to bring them home. But when you say 40 to 60,000, they'll say, "Well, Whitney, that's more than we make in a year." Or we just can't do that. And so that's where LifeBridge Capital is committed 50% of our profits to helping those families. And so we want to be able to come along beside them and help them through the process, but also say, if you'll commit, we want to be able to help financially as well.
Wow, that's really awesome. It's important to have a strong why, guys, and you can tell that Whitney's really driven because it's something really close to his heart. So obviously you're hitting some success and you're really been growing in the investing field. So if we're going to take a look back, what events or influences from your childhood shaped who you are today?
That is such a big question, and we all are shaped by events that happen, from even very young to even recent years. But some big things that really shaped me, or I know that shaped me, was military, law enforcement, experience, and probably many experiences in those during that time, helped shape me. Even before that, I would say my parents, grandparents, and many people that influenced me along the way. I was fortunate to have many men in my life who were like fathers, many different father figures, and that helped, just helped me through different times of my life. And, when I had questions or whatever, whatever it may have been, that it was really there for me. But ultimately, thankfully now, the Lord really helped shape me and shape who I am, and is still shaping me. But
so Whitney, I have a question on that, actually. So you mentioned you have a number of different father figures, and you had the luxury of having different people teach you these things from a young age. What did you take away from that? Not everybody grows up with that same kind of upbringing, but what did that do for you?
So by having many different.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I can relate. I've had a number of different father figures throughout my life, and it changed the way that I think about a number of things, but it also gave me a lot of insight, and I could imagine you probably have some similar feelings.
Very much so. And so what I found is, like, it was, there was somebody there who was like a father figure for me when I was at different times or different ages, for different types of struggles maybe, or, different types of things that I was involved in at that time growing up, whether it was when I was 16 to when I was 20 to when I was 25, there were different people that were just key, that I really trusted and became just a solid friend and mentor, really, just personally, more of a personal mentor, but what I really appreciate though is that they seen value in me, and they seen value in spending time with me, as well, and I hope to be able to do the same, to many others.
Absolutely. So when you were growing up, were your parents separated? Is that what kind of gave you that opportunity?
It is. Yep. I was about 14. My parents separated, and then that's, a lot of stuff stems from that, of course, with lots of people. But it is. After that, there was numerous men that were, like I said, like father figure that really helped me.
So I feel like, note what I said there, guys. An opportunity. So a lot of people could look at anything as being a negative, and they could come from this victim mentality, but you can see that Whitney here has taken it as this is a great opportunity for him to have some different experiences and to learn what he really appreciates, and it's probably a big reason why he's so focused on that why. So tell us a little bit about your primary focus as an investor. What do you do?
Yeah, so we're in the real estate syndication business, and so that involves putting lots of people together to purchase large commercial buildings, right? And so, so we'll raise capital from investors, and we find value add or multifamily properties that are hopefully 100 plus units or more. And there's some type of problem, right? There's some type of issue that we can correct to raise the value of that property. And so then everybody, all the investors and us, get to gain from that problem that we can fix. And that's on a high level. That's what we're looking for. That's what we're doing.
That makes so much sense. So for those people who haven't heard about syndication, tell us a little bit more about how that works.
Yeah. So on a high level, syndication is as simple as getting lots of people together to buy a large, apartment complex or a community or commercial property, putting everybody together to make this happen, where you wouldn't normally be able to do that by yourself. But by pulling all these people together, we can all benefit at a lot larger scale by being able to build teams and bring all these people together to make a much larger transaction happen.
Absolutely. That makes sense. And what kind of assets are you focused on, Whitney?
I'm focused on multifamily, preferably 150 units or more, but at least 100. So Class B, C plus, B plus, something like that.
All right. Okay, that makes sense. Well, why'd you end up going with multifamily? There's a lot of different choices out there.
There are, and that was just what I was comfortable with initially, and that's just what my focus has been. And so I can't say I'll never look at other asset classes, but that's just my focus, and I want to be really good at that. I want to master that before I'm ready to venture into other things at this time. But everybody needs a place to live, and so it's not going away.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think there's a lot of opportunities in the multifamily space. Some people say that it's overbaked. Some people say that it's one of those places where there's no more deals left. But, I've heard that in the single family world about 3 years ago before I got started. And, we've done just fine ourselves. So, if we take another step back, looking back to the beginning of your career, you mentioned something when we were talking offline, that you had a pretty challenging first property. Tell us about that one.
Yeah. So when I was I was a police officer, Kentucky State Police, and I noticed when I first got hired, I would have done it for free. It was so much fun. But after a couple of years, I started seeing guys retire that were making $40,000 a year. And I just, it just really started hitting me that, wait a minute, they've been here this long, and what do they have to look forward to, and I hate it for them, right? I'm so thankful for those men and women that serve and protect us, military as well. But they're so underpaid. And so, we wanted my wife to be able to stay at home. That was very important for us. And so, less than $40,000 a year, it was going to be pretty difficult. And so that led me to looking for real estate, right? And so to look into real estate, to find something else to provide some income. And so, I think that's when I'd read Rich Dad Poor Dad. There was something like that really opened my eyes to this thing called real estate. And I wasn't raised with around entrepreneurs or anybody that was in real estate. But I really thought, okay, there's so many people that have made wealth in real estate, and it's a much more stable investment. And so I'm going to try it. So pretty quickly I jumped in and bought 2 triplexes. And it was a massive learning experience. I there was lots of mistakes that were made, but first one, I was just very gung ho, ready to do it, made it happen, and we purchased those, and it was from beginning to end, it was just a major learning experience. So, didn't do proper due diligence. Just simple things like I did hire somebody to come and inspect the entire property. I went with him from the attics to the foundation and everywhere in between, and to every outlet, to every faucet. However, just things like, I assumed that he was an expert, in pretty much the entire property, right, on all the workings of it. But something like HVAC systems, well, yeah, he's going to make sure they're blowing hot air or cold air, but, is he an expert, on this type of unit, or how long it's probably going to last? And, when is it going to have to be replaced? How much is that going to cost? And he was not. And so just some things like that I didn't know going into that property, and even things like understanding just how much that realtor things that they had, not specifically that realtor, but her and the just, I don't know, the appraiser, just different ways that things are worded, different ways that they do things that you don't really know, when you're first brand new, or how to talk to them.
So when you were getting started, you really didn't know almost anything. You were just kind of jumping in. You thought, hey, I'm going to go out, I'm going to buy this property, and everyone else is telling me that it's going to be a great deal and it's going to really work out. It sounds like it didn't work out, but you must have made some money, right?
I don't know that we made any money, but I would say we did sell we ended up moving. I took a different job at the time, and so we had to move. So we sold that property, but it was a long few years with that property specifically. I was doing all the management, all the repairs. I was still working, obviously, full time. And the biggest loss, honestly, was the time with my new bride. I'd been married. I was just married not too long before this, and somehow we were still married. But that was a big learning experience, just all the way around. But anyway, learned a lot. We didn't have a big loss of any kind, so we're very thankful for that. But we didn't make a bunch of money either, but we gained a lot of education, that's for sure.
That is so awesome. That is so awesome. Well, I'm glad that you ended up persisting, because now so many people, even like me, are able to learn from some of your experience.
Yeah. No doubt. It's definitely persistence. You got to be persistent. If you're gonna quit at the first difficulty, then you're not going to get very far.
All right, Whitney. So you didn't make money on it, but it sounds like you don't really think about it as a negative. I mean, I feel like most people would have just given up. Why didn't you just throw in the towel and go back to what you were doing? It sounds like you enjoyed being a cop.
I enjoyed it, but I knew that wasn't the end all be all, being a cop. And I'd actually taken another position, which was really a promotion from being a cop. And so it made us move, and so sold that property. And while that property did put a bad taste in my mouth a little bit, and probably my wife as well. We weren't just ready to jump right back in. We had moved and wasn't sure how long we would be in that location where we were at. And so I didn't jump right back in, but pretty quickly after we had decided to stay where we were at and plant some roots, we jumped back in and got some more real estate and got up to like a 15 unit property, and which I still have. But once I got to that property, it was more like, where am I going with this? How can I grow this a lot more? And then I started to learn about syndication. It wasn't really till then that I'd ever even heard of the words real estate syndication, all together. And that's where I was like, okay, I started just digging into that and found out that, okay, this is a business model that I can grow really fast and be more of a professional business as opposed to trying to find more single family homes or more duplexes or triplexes or whatever.
Yeah, it's funny because I've been doing the single family game for 2 years, done 150, 160 plus transactions. And one thing that I realized was it's a great business, and it's a business that a lot of people should stay focused on 100%. But I'm having some of the same feelings as you, where I think, okay, bigger is better. It takes the same. I've built this big team. I've got all these people working towards the same goal. I'm really responsible for all these people's income, for their own ability to hit their own goals. And I think that through going and doing bigger deals, we can do a lot better together. So talk to me about building teams for you, because if I understand correctly, you're still working full time while doing that kind of volume.
That's right. Still working full time, and still doing while doing the daily podcast and doing the syndication business and raising capital, and it's a very full schedule. But your team, just like you're talking about, it is so crucial. Whether it's the team on the ground that's doing due diligence and asset management, or the part of the team that's doing the underwriting, or even just my team for the podcast alone. I mean, I've had 4 to 5 VAs that do something almost every day for the podcast, and even building a team like that, it's just, I couldn't do any of this without great teams.
That's incredible. So on the podcasting front, you've been interviewing and connecting with some of the best syndicators around the country. What are like 1 or 2 things that you've really taken away that you're applying in your business on a daily basis now?
And a lot of people ask, well, who's the favorite one or whatever, and that's really hard to just pick somebody out. But I would say, a cumulative. Over interviewing so many people, just like you're doing, you're going to learn so much by being able to just ask them questions, anything you want. But personally, I just think more than just specific ways, it's helping me grow. It's helped me grow personally and professionally, but more so through the networking and, I wouldn't know you probably if it wasn't we had dinner a few times, but, at an event, but meeting these people, that are so much further ahead in the industry, and being able to ask questions of the types of deals they're doing and why, and some of those are just key things, or whatever I'm dealing with right now. I may lean on those questions during those interviews.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's convenient, right? But also it's providing value to the listeners. So there's so many things that I've learned from the podcast. But whether it's even from building that team and helping them grow, and even changing team members, as I've had to do recently, to more details, into the syndication business specifically.
Yeah, it sounds to me, if this is my takeaway, and you can build on it if you will, it sounds to me like what you've done is you've set up a way for you to be able to model and connect with some of the best real estate investors from around the country, and that every single day you're taking in new information, and you're putting yourself in a position where you have to take in that new information, and you have to apply new things, because you're out in the public sphere, and you're talking with these folks. Is that kind of what you're doing?
No doubt. Any kind of thought leadership platform is, it's a must almost now if you want to have much faster success. Just being able to reach that many people. So many people I've interviewed, they wouldn't have picked up the phone to talk to me. However, if I can provide value to them, if I can promote them to my network, and then they want to be on the show, right? So, and then I get this time with them. And so it does, but it makes me prepare. It makes me learn every day. It makes me just take in new content constantly, right? Personally, and to be able to provide value to everybody that's listening all at the same time.
So I feel like persistence is a pretty consistent theme when I'm talking with you here. You started out, you failed. You don't call it failure because you're an achiever. Just the same way I wouldn't call it failure. It's an opportunity to learn. You started jumping into things were working out, they're not working out, you were in a job, but you're just not going to give up. What's the secret to standing out and succeeding? If you're going to give some advice to somebody who wants to follow in your footsteps.
Yeah, consistent action. I know we've all heard that, right? And we get stuck on this this massive action thing. Everybody says massive action, but it doesn't have to be massive. It doesn't even have to be a daily podcast. And I tell most people, don't make it something that's so difficult that you won't do it. But you got to want it, right? I mean, you got to be able to go, have the desire to go after it. And I just find a lot of people won't get off the couch. They won't change their habits, right? They won't go after it. They won't go get it. And I want to say, what are you waiting for? What are you waiting for? And that wasn't always my mentality or my thought process, or maybe to some extent, but not in real estate. My eyes weren't open to that yet. But military, law enforcement, all those things I think helped me to have that drive and just the mentality of not giving up. But you can't give up. It's going to be difficult. Even if you start a different career, guess what? You're going to have some of the same struggles. And if you're just going to quit again, it's, you're never going to get anywhere.
Yeah, that's so strong. When you think about investing, what's the kind of the mindset that you bring to the table when you're going into a new deal? Maybe a new deal that you've done with some new partners, or a deal that you've never seen before in your life?
So the team is most important. A really good team can make a bad deal good most of the time, or they're not going to get into it in the beginning. And so team is ultimately the first thing, and then obviously market and the deal, and there's all kinds of things that are going to make a deal work or not.
So how do you go about knowing that you are working with a good team?
Well, as you've heard, track record. Most people are going to do background checks, all those things. But ultimately, I want to go spend some time with them. Like go on a hike with that person, or and camp out. Just the stories and you're going to learn a lot about that person, by doing that and spending some time. A guy that I'm partnering with on some stuff now, I've stayed at his house a few nights, and just, spending time with his whole family. And guess what? They want to do the same thing to me because they're vetting me the same way, but it's really good. Just even how they interact with their kids, not just in a professional setting, but, just seeing how they live life. It just tells you a lot. And that's going to be, it could be a game changer. They could be putting on a good front while you're sitting at Starbucks, talking about real estate. But let's go home and let's let their kid, pick at them a little bit and see how they respond. Just things like that. See who they are. It's so much more important than whether they've, they just understand this business inside and out. If they're not somebody you want to partner with personally, then, go somewhere else.
Yeah, I think that's so strong. I mean, at the end of the day, that's what it really comes down to is if you're going to partner with somebody, it's like a marriage. I mean, you're really locking into a contract with them that, frankly is maybe it's even a little bit harder to leave than a marriage sometimes if you're in a 50-50 partnership, because it costs a lot of money, but it's also a lot of headache. So you want to make sure that you're linking up with somebody who's going to be a good fit for the long term. And even if they're only a good fit for the short term, that you've set really clear expectations, who they are, because you don't want to get in bed with a crook, or you don't want to get in bed with, somebody who's just not going to share the same kind of values or care about the same kind of things, because you're going to end up working with them quite a bit.
No doubt. It is a marriage. I mean, you don't have rings, but you are tied.
Yeah, that's so good. That's so good. So what are some of your keystone habits? What are some of the things that you do on a daily or weekly basis that you think are a really big part of what makes you who you are?
No, I like that. And it's a good question. And, one thing that changed for me when I started, well, I guess when I really set my mind on pursuing the syndication business and growing this and just hitting it really as hard as I could, because I had another business in addition to my day job at the time that was going really well, and that was pretty successful for me anyway. But I decided to cut that off completely. I stopped that altogether so I could focus on real estate. so at that time I was reading some books, and one book at that time was The Miracle Morning by Hal Elrod, and so anyway, just some things in that book, helped me to think about just my morning routine and just the importance of being up early. I was already up early, but just really structuring that time so I can be more purposeful. And I can't say I always do that, but I do try to make sure that those I'm up early, that my time is more structured, or I have a time of reading and studying, and first thing in the morning, just praying about my day and getting my mind right. And I understand the importance. Like I said, I can't say I do it every day, but that is my goal. But then, whether from that, even things like, and my wife really helps me with this, but eating good foods, like I've learned that by eating junk foods, I guess what, I can't think as clear, and I can't perform near as well. And so, changing those types of habits have helped me to be a lot more healthy, but just it helps me all together. And so, even now I can have a conversation and my mind to be more clear. I won't have like brain fog, and so just really changing those things that may seem small, but it's those small things that just amount into really big things. But yeah, that and time blocking, I would say, has been another thing. Trying to be very organized with my time, and it's still a struggle. But when you can time block, then you can mentally be where you're supposed to be instead of sitting at the dinner table and worrying about whatever the emails that are coming through, And so when I know that this time is set for that, then it helps me to be in that moment, especially when it's family time.
Yeah, isn't it incredible how when you eat the right things, you're able to work a lot harder, you're able to think a lot better, you're able to feel a lot better, and just be overall much happier?
No doubt. My family has experienced it firsthand. That's a whole nother story. We could do a whole podcast on about eating, especially if my wife was in here. But
we'll save
just
that one for another day. I love that.
Yeah, but just being able to think more clearly and be more energized, go on less sleep, all those things.
That's awesome. So let's jump into the growth fire round, which is not actually that fire. It's not that fast, but we're going to rapid fire through these. What's a book that's impacted your life the most, or one that you're the most excited about right now?
The Bible is definitely the one that's impacted me the most, as far as specifically in business. The one recently that I have read is I was looking at the Road Less Stupid. And it's one that I recommend. I don't know if you've read it, but I really, it was just some key things that just about running a business and working with team members, and it was really good. But I like to, you can go to any chapter and it's kind of like its own information. You don't have to go straight through, if there's specific things you want to read about.
Oh, that's great. A little choose your own adventure.
Right.
That's awesome. So from a purpose perspective, tell me, Whitney, why do you do what you do?
Like I shared in the beginning, our big why, is to really help families that are in the adoption process. And I'll share too, if there's a listener who has said, oh, you know what, my spouse and I have always wanted to adopt. You can reach out to me, and my wife and I will schedule a call with you to answer any questions we have. We try to offer that, and have done that with many people in the real estate industry. They hear about that and they're like, oh, we'd love to know more about that. And so we're happy to answer questions about, just from our experience. But we want to help, as many children be placed in homes as we can.
Yeah, that's so powerful. And anyone who is in that position should really take Whitney up on it. I know that he truly means that from the bottom of his heart. Final question here. Who is a mentor that's inspired you to live your best life every day, Whitney?
You have so many mentors, right? And you may have a mentor that is, you may have a mentor that was specifically for real estate, right? Or you may have a mentor who's specifically for like personal growth, or you may, different types of mentors,
Yep,
but
absolutely.
When you say like my best life every day, I was thinking about how growing up, I would say my mother was always the one that said no. She was always the encourager, always, whatever I set my mind on, she was always behind me. But now, like where I'm at in my life now, I would have to say my wife. If it's somebody that's every day, then it's definitely her. I've got a real estate mentor, numerous mentors in real estate, but living my best life every day. Well, I don't talk to them every day,
but just somebody who inspires you to live your best life every day. But it's great that you have a wife and a partner, somebody who you get to share life's experiences with, and that's really kind of pushing you in that right direction. I could imagine that's really strong. But on the real estate front, on the real estate and mindset front, who is somebody that comes to mind?
Specifically in real estate, it'd be Joe Fairless. He's been a mentor of mine and friend, and he's been a really good mentor and pushed me in this business.
And what's Joe been able to do for you, and how has he helped you kind of accelerate your own growth?
I think just knowing that he's there to answer questions, especially when I was first getting started. Just somebody that's that experienced in the industry. I just think it gives you so much more confidence having someone like that that you can email or call or text or when you have a question.
It's one of the things that I think we should all take away from this is that we're all on this path, and there's people who are behind us and looking to follow in our footsteps, and there's people who are well ahead of us, people who we look at as an inspiration. And so if we can help just share that little bit of advice with somebody else who's planning on going the same direction that we have, we really get to help accelerate their ability to go out and do the things that they really care about. And it sounds like Joe's been able to do that for you.
Yeah, and I would say that I'm the type, just like on that first property, okay, I'm ready to jump in and just let's make it happen, right? I'm on that ruck march, I'm just going to keep going, right? My feet are blistered, but I'm just going to keep making it happen, keep going, However, there could be an easier way. Guess what? A truck just came by, let's hitch a ride, right? I'm ready to get you to run or to make it happen, but I find that, running on that treadmill, I'm not going anywhere, right? So I'm ready to work really hard, but having a mentor or somebody like Joe, just kind of give me some direction. Let's think about these things, or have you done this? And so okay, giving me some kind of plan or roadmap, that was key.
Yeah, that's awesome. And for those who don't know Joe Fairless, he has a podcast called The Best Ever Real Estate Investing Podcast. It's great. You guys should check it out. It's also a daily podcast. He's got a lot of great guests on there. So Whitney, thank you so much for being with us today. Thanks so much for sharing a little bit about your story and kind of why you do what you do and what you're out there working towards today. Where can other people find out more about you or get in touch with you, Whitney?
lifebridgecapital.com, LifeBridge Capital. You can also email me, Whitney at LifeBridge Capital, and I'm happy to schedule a call with you and help you any way I can.
That's awesome. Well, it was really great getting to talk with you here, Whitney. I appreciate you spending some time with us and sharing a little bit about your story. And I look forward to the next time that we can get together.
My pleasure, Stephen. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Investor Mindset Podcast. If you like what you heard, make sure to rate, review, subscribe, and share it with a friend. Head over to theinvestormindset.com to join the Insider Club, where we share tools and strategies from the top investors and entrepreneurs on how to take it to the next level.